I'm Kim Beasley, and I'm the host of Pamper My Business podcast, where you will learn tips, tools, and techniques that will give you the freedom to easily build your business brand online so that you can be seen and then sell to your target customers. I will be interviewing industry leaders and professionals who will share their knowledge and experience, which will help you brand your business online. Get ready to take notes and learn from Kim and her guests, because this is going to be a fun learning experience.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Beasley, and I am the host of Pamper My Business podcast. I'm excited today because I have a guest who's not only going to give you great tips and tools and techniques, but she's going to help you kind of synergize everything together if you're trying to kind of build a one-to-one coaching environment. So let me introduce you to her. And her name is Gabrielle Chipeur, and she is an award-winning web and instructional. So she's got two areas going on there. Award-winning web and instructional designer who loves Star Wars. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my excitement coming out there a little bit. And she owns far too many pairs of glasses. You and I have to talk about glasses. I totally understand. For the last 16 years, she's been sitting at the crossroads of technology, marketing, and online education. And there are really just a lot to say about just those three areas. And she specializes in helping service-based experts to wrangle the technology in their business and translate their one-to-one service into online courses, or, get this, automations that can grow past the limits of their calendars. Yeah, I need to have this talk with you today. I definitely do. But before I get into all the questions, I want to know something. What is the purpose of your business in regards to all the people that you want to help, your target audience? What is your purpose?
Well, my main purpose is really to just get people doing more of what they're best at. So, I mean, we've heard it called your zone of genius, your why, what they're here to help people with. And I find that a lot of people in the coaching and consulting industries, they spend a lot of time working on their business, like answering emails, phone calls, doing all of these fiddly little tech bits that are really taking them away from doing what they do best, which is working with their people and getting their people good results.
That is awesome. Woo! I know if you're listening in, you have to be excited that she's here today, because she's got some really great tools and tidbits and techniques she's going to share with you. So tell me something. How did you get started with your business?
Well, I kind of like to call myself an accidental entrepreneur. So when I was first starting out after graduating from college, I went to a digital arts and media course, which was kind of a crash course in everything online and digital. So we did like photography and videography and graphic design and web design and production planning and multimedia games. It was just all over the board. So when I graduated, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a job. So I kind of worked here and worked there. And then when I was 24, I was working as a web developer and graphic designer for a fitness chain here in Edmonton. And I got a phone call from Shell Canada's HR department. And they just said that they found me on LinkedIn or found me online somewhere. And they wanted me to interview for a position that they had opening up in their training department.
Did you say Canada?
Yeah, Shell Canada.
Is that here in the U.S. or in Canada? Am I missing something?
No, well, it would be Shell, but it was Canada's department of it.
Wow, go ahead. That's awesome.
So I said, okay. And I did a bunch of interviews, and essentially they were transitioning away from all of their classroom learning and in-person training because they had all of these fresh new recruits and fresh new employees that were younger, and they wanted more online learning and training that they could, use across the board. Mm-hmm. So they wanted someone with my digital experience, my design experience, and someone who could work with all of these platforms and systems that they had going on. And so they just kind of plucked me out and they said, well, don't worry about learning or knowing about the actual training stuff, all that instructional design, because we'll train you on that. We just need your skills. So I said, okay. And in order to work with them, I had to be an incorporated company because they didn't work with just people and they didn't want me to be an employee. So I had to go and get my corporation papers signed and my company set up. And from then on, I was a business. So after I left Shell a couple of years later, I had my little kids and I wanted to not go back to work. So I started working online and doing freelance and working as a business owner and an entrepreneur at that point.
Mm-hmm. You know, you said something in all of that I'm hoping that my listeners will capture. And that nugget is that you were found on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people don't realize that if you optimize yourself for specific keywords on LinkedIn, that corporations are looking for you. I landed my big corporate account back in 2012. 6 years later, we're still working together. And they found me on LinkedIn. So I just want to drop that tidbit. If you're not optimized on LinkedIn for your keywords, you need to optimize on LinkedIn for your keywords.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think LinkedIn is a very special network because it's so laser focused on business and business connections. It doesn't have a lot of the social aspects that Facebook and Twitter and Instagram tend to focus on. Like, people are there for a reason and they're very laser focused on what they want, and they don't spend a lot of time just fiddling around, right? They're there for a specific purpose, which I think is one of its greatest powers for sure.
Awesome. So can you tell us what some of the lessons are that you've learned along the way?
Well, I'd say one of my biggest lessons was that it's almost impossible to do it all yourself.
Wait, hold up. Wait, back up. Say that again.
It is almost impossible to do it all yourself.
I love that you said that. Now tell us why you said that.
Because I think a lot of us, we get caught up in this. A lot of the online marketing nowadays is bombarding us with messages of 6 figures, 7 figures, grow into this huge business. And they don't really allude to the fact that you need a lot of foundational work and a lot of systems in place in order to grow a business to that size. And so people are kind of floundering around trying to do it all themselves, and they're getting super overwhelmed and super frustrated because, again, if you're just someone who is not just a coach, but if that's what you do best, then all of these systems and all of these technologies and all of the platforms that you need in order to grow this business is not necessarily your forte. So it's so common that my clients come to me completely discouraged and so frustrated and so overwhelmed, and they're just like this close to quitting because, you know, this isn't for them and I'm just going to go get a job, right? But really, most of my work is kind of talking them back from the ledge and saying, you can have that, but this is what you need first. Like, you need these foundational pieces so that you're not doing all of that yourself and it's kind of running for you.
So when you come across these clients who feel this, what I want to call the overwhelmed syndrome, what are some of the things that you do to talk them down off the wall?
Well, the first thing is really putting in some key pieces that just takes away a lot of that day-to-day stress. My favorite is setting up integrations between their booking platforms and their email software. Simple things like connecting their payment processor with their booking platforms, integrating all of that with a website so that all they literally need to do is send someone a link, and then everything else just falls into place based on the actions their clients take. And they don't have to worry about, okay, now I'm going to send him my discovery call link. Okay, now I'm going to answer answer all of his individual questions. Okay, now I'm going to send him my payment link. Okay, now I've got to make sure that payment link connects with my invoicing software. And now I have to, all of these individual steps that when you set up with something like Zapier, or if when you're using these next gen tools that all have really nice APIs that connect together so well, that it all just kind of flows together nicely. And all you have to do is set off that first initial trigger and everything happens according to plan afterwards.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because I tend to get people who have come from other web designers in my business and they are either lost, overwhelmed, or something is broken and needs to be fixed, or just all these different issues. And I totally understand with having to talk people down off the wall. Now, with that in mind, what are some of the top business issues that you have faced yourself and overcome?
I would say one of my top business issues that I faced was exactly what I help my clients with. When I had my 2 little boys, I was working from home and I only had so many hours and so much fewer hours because I was trying to keep tiny humans alive at the same time. And I had all of these great clients and I was kind of relying mostly on word of mouth. So I would get all these people referred to me and it was fantastic. But then I got to a certain point where I just literally, I couldn't take on any more clients and, retain my sanity at that point. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of sat back and realized that just like, the cobbler's children, right? They didn't have any shoes. I didn't have any system set up in my own business, even though I had helped all of my clients set up all of these systems in there.
Hold up. You just said something really, another nugget. You helped everybody else do what you do, but you hadn't done it in your own business.
Yeah.
That's really key. That's an issue I personally had to overcome. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that was just really the first stepping stone to me being able to basically practice what I preach. So I put in place a bunch of systems. I took a lot of that load off my own shoulders. I took some time off, I'm not going to lie, where I shuffled some client projects around. So I gave myself some space. And I think that was the second big lesson, was that when you're doing these big system setups and these foundational pieces in your business, you really need to give yourself space to do that, because it takes a lot longer and a lot more effort than I find people assume it will. And when you give yourself that space to actually do it, it makes it a lot less stressful, because it's not like, I need to do it now. It's okay, well, I need to have this in place, over the next 10 days or the next 2 weeks, right? And it's not quite so frustrating and so stressful to get it done like right now. Okay, so one issue is making sure that what you're telling other people to do in their business, that you're doing it in your business, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, what's another issue that you face? And I think a big issue too that I personally face in my business, and I think that this is kind of universal, is consistency. And not even just in our marketing, but in how we plan our business tasks day to day, how we set our goals, how we structure our business in terms of achieving those goals. And I find that it's really easy to get caught up in the new shiny thing. I am a planner junkie, so I'm constantly buying new planners and new productivity systems, and it's really one of my downfalls. But when you do that, you kind of set yourself back, right? Because you have to learn how to integrate this going forward, and you get that messy little beginning part where you're trying to figure out how it works for you, and you're really taking a couple steps back. So once I discovered a system that actually worked for me about 2 years ago, I decided that I was just going to be consistent and stick with it. So whether that was my social media marketing, whether that was my email marketing, or my to-do list, the way that I structure my weeks and my days, stuff like that, being consistent and not changing it at the drop of a hat was a big lesson that I learned for sure. I know
Rebecca, my project manager, when she listens to this, she's probably going to go, yeah, that right there, consistency, because I get the opportunity to test software all the time. And that shiny object, I have to watch that myself and make sure that I am not allowing myself to get sidetracked by the shiny object. So I totally understand having that business issue. Even though I have consistency and processes in place, that shiny object is always over there trying to distract you. And as a business owner, we have to mind our business and not allow this shiny object to make us drift away. I love that.
Absolutely. And I mean, at the same time, we do have to make a little bit of space for advancement and finding new things that is actually helpful for us. Because, I mean, you and I both know there's new software, there's new platforms cropping up every single day. And so I think if you have a process or a system in place to actually give yourself space to like play around and find something new, because, you know, you never know, you might find the tool that actually fits perfectly or is better than one that you're currently using and is actually worth the investment and the time.
You have been listening to Pamper My Business podcast, and I am your host, Kim Beasley. Join the Pamper My Business community by visiting pampermybusiness.com, where you will find our free training along with our masterclass so that you can continue your learning journey about building your brand online.